Chapter 9.
As Draco hovered on his broom during the Quidditch tryouts, he watched the older and larger players in green around him. He thought it would have been simpler if he had just let his father secure him a spot on the team. None of the Gryffindors had thanked him for his decision. Just like his many gestures towards their version of nobility, it had yielded no appreciation. What good was it, then? It was immature to think so short-term. He knew, and he needed to consider the long run. Yet after a lonely week of studying solely with Hermione, he could hardly fathom why he'd burdened himself with the extra strain of tryouts. It didn't help knowing some senior Quidditch members had been mocking rumors about his personal life, teasing about him fancying Potter of all things. Though mentioning it had subsided after he used the Langlock curse on Seamus, that brought its own troubles. Most of Slytherin, including even Flint, began avoiding him after that. Their preference for the previous year's Seeker was understandable, despite his defeat to Potter during their match. Handsome Terrence Higgs, Flint's peer, was part of his inner circle. No rumors of any questionable tendencies swirled around Higgs, habits which might make sharing a dressing room with Draco a concern. Higgs made a striking figure in his emerald robes, a fact Draco begrudgingly acknowledged. As Blaze had irritatingly pointed out, it was true Draco seemed to have a weak spot for Seekers. Draco caught himself pondering the lack of female tryouts for Slytherin's team. It was just how things were, or perhaps an outcome of the emphasis on size over skill that had taken hold recently. Selfishly, he was glad there were no girls to present swift, nimble rivalry. He recalled the lineup, unchanged from what was known, with Flint, Pusey, and Montague as chasers, Bull and Derek selected as beaters, and Bletchley still manning the goals as keeper. Higgs seemed more compatible in every aspect, yet Draco had his Nimbus 2001, practiced diligently over the summer, and though he couldn't outclass Potter, he certainly surpassed these narrow-minded dolts. Draco considered if it would have been better to intimidate Flint before tryouts, or simply curse Higgs to secure his place. But for the first time in Quidditch, he was independent. Here he was, judged by his own abilities, with his school reputation now working against him. Flint gathered them from their warm-ups, and Draco instinctively lined up military style with his broom. Flint spoke clumsily about the need to defeat Gryffindor this year, as if winning the Quidditch or even House Cup was irrelevant. Pusey, with his dreamy appeal, gave a more comprehensible talk about the tryouts, while Draco internally juggled admiration and fear. They soon executed flying drills, the years of familiarity guiding Draco's movements automatically. Experience the rest couldn't match gave him an edge, as his muscle memory made him appear more accomplished than he truly was. Higgs wouldn't gain this advantage, and Draco's real-game knowledge overshadowed even the youngest Seeker in a century, Potter. The drills, though not liberating like past night's solo flights, were soothingly repetitive. Plus, Draco took comfort in his superior broom's performance compared to the others, which alone might earn him a place. His youth was less of a barrier if their true goal was besting Gryffindor with Potter as their Seeker. Sure, beating Potter was unlikely, but the ruse could easily secure Draco's place, freeing him from his father's pressure. Draco's 12-year-old arm needed development. The quaffle drills taxed his arms and inflated his ego when faced with the other's longer throws. Yet, being 12 was advantageous during the beaters round, serving as a target with Higgs and the other chasers, showing agility others couldn't match. Flint observed critically from above, his scrutiny heavy on Draco. Whether it leaned toward bias or fairness was unpredictable. Draco's slender frame skillfully evaded bludgers. A twist or press closer to the broom was often enough to dodge. Each miss filled him with satisfaction and the beaters with frustration. Years of real beater practice with Vince and Greg had taught him well. These others lacked true ferocity. The defensive skirmish concluded with Draco unscathed. Higgs, however, had taken several hits, likely impeding him. Yet a blow struck Draco as cruelly as any bludger. He noticed, to his dismay, that the stands weren't as empty as he'd believed. Either the observer had sneaked into the stands unnoticed when the trials began, or he had always been settled in that spot that Draco favored, deep in the shadows hanging heavily against the stand's wall. In their first year, it had been reversed, but now it was Potter stationed there, with his eyes fixed on the proceedings. A swirl of thoughts collided in Draco's mind. Hermione and he used to sit there in the previous year. Perhaps she had mentioned it to Potter. It was too far to discern any particular features, but there was no mistaking the Gryffindor robes, dark hair, and the gleam of sunlight bouncing off glasses. Their motives could be anything, from spying on him or the entire team, to a mere happenstance, or even as a ploy to sabotage him, retaliating for that diary incident. The urge to confront the potential spy waned when he noticed Flint conversing in a low tone with Higgs, seemingly giving him tips on how to handle Draco, evidenced by their occasional glances his way. Higgs, who always had an unsettlingly clean game for a Slytherin, might soon adopt some new tactics, professional or otherwise. Draco felt the wand inside his robe, but knew a spell here wasn't viable, not with Potter watching, nor with the Slytherins as witnesses. His only viable option was to prove his mettle on the Quidditch field while all eyes were set against him. The Slytherin Seeker Trials, beyond participating in drills, comprised a trio of duels. The spectators now on the grass, and Flint stayed aloft to release the snitch. Though initially hesitant about vying for the position, his father's plans, the silent opposition from senior Slytherins, and Potter's presence fueled his determination. Draco's eyes fixed intensely on Higgs. Then they took off, racing against the glimmer of gold in the sky, with Higgs's bulk challenged by Draco's superior broom's agility. Yet, the snitch soared above them both, and in mere moments, Draco found himself scanning the pitch anew, as Higgs pursued something in earnest. Draco's instincts sent him plunging after Higgs. He closed in as the snitch emerged in front of the east stand, gold against the sky. Their dives synchronized until Higgs veered towards him, a sharp elbow almost unseating Draco. But having learned from Flint's arsenal of tricks, Draco flattened to his broom, executing a full aerial somersault, the gold still within reach. Utilizing Higgs's shove as impetus, he spiraled downward, blocking Higgs's path and securing the snitch with such ease it seemed implausible. Twice more Draco captured the snitch with a similar lack of difficulty, conscious of what felt like Potter's scrutiny. Avoiding a glance in that direction for fear of monumental distraction, he nevertheless thrived on the adrenaline rush of being observed by the boy who became a measure of all things. It drew an acute focus on Higgs's deceptive maneuvering and allowed him to claim the snitch ahead once more, despite Higgs's best efforts. Higgs remained in jeopardy of losing his position, especially after stirring Draco's ire. Mere moments after Draco clutched the snitch, Higgs barreled into him, no effort made to avert his crashing weight, a tactic reminiscent of Muggle football tackles Mr. Granger had occasionally demonstrated. The lingering impact of that collision resonated, as did the weak apology Higgs offered, betraying no genuine regret. Perhaps, Draco mused, he had been too lenient with the other second years, underestimating the diminishing fear his name invoked in Slytherin. That was a situation easily rectified. From their past encounters and observations from first-year matches, Draco had thoroughly analyzed Higgs's playstyle. His good looks only justified Draco's detailed attention. With bludger impacts softened by Draco's accumulated knowledge and his growing advantage over a flustered Higgs, Draco's strategy was meticulously set even before Flint set the snitch into play once more. Draco darted immediately toward the hoops in a blinding dive, inciting enough panic in Higgs that evading oncoming obstacles fell by the wayside, leading him straight into the highest hoop. Draco might have reveled in the sound of Higgs's handsome face colliding sharply with the hoop, resulting in him fainting and dropping off his broom, leaving Draco free to lazily descend and collect the snitch hovering close to the earth. Visibly, Flint and the others gawked at Higgs's fallen form, unable to react swiftly enough to halt his descent. Handing the snitch to Flint with a composed demeanor, Draco then leaned over Higgs, murmuring enervate. Dazed eyes blinked open, the damage visible, a broken nose at the very least, perhaps with other injuries incurred from the fall. With the wonders of magical healing, it was uncertain if Higgs would be off the Quidditch pitch for long. However, Draco believed he had effectively made his statement. He felt a guilty thrill as he cast a fleeting look toward the seats, noticing that Potter remained present.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!